Kristen, what I like is data. And if we look at data from President Trump's first term, and there's a big study that just came out from a group of economists, mostly at MIT, that showed that a 20% tariff on China led to a 0.7% tax or price level increase over 4 years. I think that's pretty good. If we can take in 20% in tariffs and it's a 0.7% increase. And Kristen, the little publicized story this week, everyone wants to look at the stock market going down. You know what else went down? Oil prices went down almost 15% in 2 days, which impacts working Americans much more than the stock market does. Interest rates hit their low for the year, so I'm expecting the mortgage applications to pick up.
Well, just to be very clear, though, I mean, during President Trump's first terms, the cost to Americans was nearly $80 billion in new taxes due to his tariffs. Prices did go up on everything from washing machines to tires.
Well, no, but let's go back. The aggregate number was 0.7, so we can discern the individual things. Also, households saw real net wages go up. So if wages go up faster than prices, which is not what happened over the past 4 years, that's why the bottom 50% got eviscerated.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about probably one of the most unprofessional interviews that I've seen in a long time in the mainstream liberal media that took place between Margaret Brennan and Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary for the Trump administration. Now, Mr. Howard Lutnick is on the show to talk about President Trump's tariffs and the plan for the administration, which is very clear, okay, if people are actually listening to the administration, but people are not listening to the administration. They have no interest whatsoever in listening to Trump's economic team clearly explain what they're trying to do, okay? And if you understand what President Trump is trying to do, then you will understand that there's really no reason to panic, and that a lot of this stuff that is happening right now is happening because the Trump administration wants it to happen, right? The quote-unquote chaos is a part of the negotiation process, okay? But mainstream liberal media, they refuse to acknowledge that as a possibility, and they're carrying water for the Democrat Party by raging against these tariffs in ways that seem to be very personal and pretty anti-American, to be honest with you, because when it comes to other countries and the tariffs they have on the United States of America, all of these people that claim they love free trade so much don't actually support free trade because they make up all types of excuses for why it's okay for other countries not to allow our products to be sold in their markets, but it's totally fine if we allow their products to be sold in our markets.
So just in point of fact, the reason that the European Union, even though they are our fourth biggest market for agricultural products, as you know, don't take as much American pork as you would like is because they have issues with hormones used in pork. I don't want to get into a whole debate over that, but it's not an issue about tariffs. But let me ask you about the computation of these tariffs, because conservative economists at the American Enterprise Institute...
But wait, hold on, Jake. No. This is really important. You can't just say that. So here's the bottom line. They are using fake science and unsubstantiated claims to not take our products. So it isn't just that they have high tariffs. Thank you for making this point for me, by the way. I meant to make it. It's not just the tariff numbers. It's the way they've treated our products. Oh, sorry, we can't take your beef since 2002 because you use a certain type of feed. That's just absolute bull. It is not correct and not appropriate. Our supplies, our farmers and ranchers, we produce the safest, the most secure, the best food in the world. And so to use that for the EU to say, oh my goodness, we can't do it because of this reason, it's absolutely wrong and it's not based on sound science.
Okay, well, you can take that up with the Europeans. Conservative.
Yeah, so it's almost as if the mainstream liberal media, they are rooting for other countries in this trade negotiation that President Trump is doing right now, right? That is kind of what it sounds like, because Margaret Brennan is clearly going to show during this interview that she is very upset with Wall Street taking it on the chin with these tariffs. And again, she is fuming, clearly really mad that she is losing a lot of money. Take a look.
Did you expect this level of shock in the financial markets?
Well, you've got to realize this is a national security issue. I mean, we don't make medicine in this country anymore. We don't make ships. We don't have enough steel and aluminum to fight a battle, right? All our semiconductors are made overseas, so every button we press when we try to start our car or even use our microwave, these are all semiconductors. They're all made elsewhere. We've got to start to protect ourselves, and we've got to stop having all the countries of the world ripping us off. We have a $1.2 trillion trade deficit, and the rest of the world has a surplus with us. They're earning our money. They're taking our money.
Right.
And Donald Trump has seen this, and he's going to stop it. So it is going to be a big change. Of course it's going to be a big change, but the rest of the world has been ripping us off for all these many years. Donald Trump has seen it. He's spoken about it.
I understand
and he's just
that.
not going to take it anymore, and that's his model.
And that was abundantly clear during the presidential campaign how much the president truly believes in tariffs and putting him at the center of his economic policy. But you saw absolute panic in the global markets. Did you expect that, or were you surprised?
No, I think the point is you need to reset the power of the United States of America and reset it against all our allies and our enemies alike. The idea that all the countries of the world can run trade surpluses with America and buy our things with us. Remember, $1.2 trillion. In 1980, we were a net investor, meaning we owned more of the rest of the world than they owned of us.
Yeah, it's a different world. It's a different market.
And now they own $18 trillion of us net. So that means the rest of the world, every year when we run a $1.2 trillion deficit, the rest of the world buys $1.2 trillion of America, and it goes up and up and up. And eventually we're not going to own America, and we are going to be owned by the rest of the world. Imagine if we had a war and we can't build a ship, we can't fly a plane, we can't build our own planes, we don't have our own semiconductors. This is what the president is here to fix for America. It's in his hands, and he wants to fix America. This is his chance to fix America, and we need him to fix it for our children and our grandchildren.
Okay, but for businesses to do what you're doing, because what I hear you laying out there is a plan to reindustrialize the United States and to bring companies back to America. For a CEO to choose to invest.
Well said.
But for a CEO to make those decisions, you know this, they need certainty. They need to know if it costs them more to stay overseas or if it costs them more to move here. So can you give them clarity so that they don't just cut jobs because they're dealing with the cost of these tariffs? Can you tell them how long they're staying in place?
No, he can't do that because that weakens the negotiation, right? And that is the most frustrating part about these interviews from the media, because they're not approaching it from a neutral standpoint. They're approaching it from the standpoint of this uncertainty is causing the stock market to drop, aka the richest of Americans are losing the most money right now, okay? And apparently she's a part of the richest of Americans who are losing money, because that is the only explanation for why this seems so personal to her, right? The way she's speaking to Howard Lutnick is disrespectful, and it seems personal, right? Her anger and her rage over the stock market losing a few percentage points, which again, in the grand scheme of things, if you look at a long-term chart of the S&P 500, okay, you're talking about being somebody that is close to retirement or retiring. If you've been in the market for the last 5 years and you've been in the S&P 500, you're still up over 80%. And if you've been invested for the last 20 years, since 2000, you're up over 500% in terms of just nominal dollars, right? In real returns, you're up over 250% adjusted for inflation, right? So, I mean, this percentage point drop right now, again, is not destroying people's retirement, right? Let's be real, okay? They're exaggerating, absolutely exaggerating, okay? Also, on top of that, if you're close to retirement, you probably should not have 100% of your portfolio in stocks. Probably not a good idea, right? Maybe you should have, some more bonds, right? Some more fixed income investments, right? Because, I mean, hey, that's where the traders are going, right? The traders. And what I mean by the traders, I mean Wall Street, because they're not investors. No, they're speculators, right? The speculators are upset because there's not enough certainty for them. But Main Street is buying, right? Main Street is saying, wait, hold on now. Stocks are on sale. I'm a long-term investor. Ultimately, at the end of the day, in the long term, this is likely going to work out better for this country, okay, to get better trade deals. Let me go ahead and pour some more money in the stock market. Stocks are on sale, and they're probably going to get cheaper, right? We're witnessing deflation happen before our very eyes, okay, in the stock market. So I'm just saying that ultimately, again, the people who are the most upset, the Democrats, okay, the liberal media, the liberal elite, they're mad, okay, because the rich aren't getting richer, and that the middle class, that the working man, okay, is getting some relief, okay? Again, who do not benefit from the inflation in the stock market, right? They don't benefit from that, okay? So they're not being hurt by the deflation in the stock market that's happening right now. But they are benefiting from the fact that because all of these investors have decided to run to government bonds, that yields are declining. And when yields decline, that means that borrowing costs, capital costs for consumers go down, okay? You have gas prices also going down. The price of eggs are going down. Energy prices going down. These are things that are going to help out the American people, okay? When interest rates are lowered for mortgages, that means that more people are going to be willing to sell their homes, okay? Because they're not going to have to deal with refinancing at a significantly higher interest rate that, again, makes it unattractive to do that. And then you're going to have more buyers able to purchase homes because they can actually borrow money to go and get a home, right? At a reasonable rate. So again, these are the things that are actually going to help get the economy going. Small businesses are going to be able to borrow money at a cheaper rate as well too. That is the type of victory that President Trump is trying to deliver to Main Street. So Wall Street temporarily has to take a hit, okay? And that is the whole point of the quote unquote chaos and uncertainty, which is why Howard Lutnick would not be smart to come out here and to tell this anchor what's going to happen for sure, because that goes against the actual plan, right? The chaos is the plan, because out of chaos, deals start to unfold, okay? But you need the chaos in order to maintain the leverage in the deal, right? And for whatever reason, again, these people don't understand that they're dealing with somebody, a president that wrote the art of the deal, and it would be unwise to bet against him. So without further ado, let's get into this.
So when three of the president's other economic advisors who are on other networks today say that 50 different countries have been calling the White House to try to talk about the tariffs, what does that mean? Because that makes it sound like there is a negotiation, which is different from saying the tariffs are permanent.
Well, what it shows is that all these countries know that they've been ripping us off, and the day has come for that to end. Now, the problem is, it's not just tariffs. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, Vietnam said they'd like to be 0-0. Remember, Vietnam sends us $120 billion worth of goods every year.
Yes,
and
cheap
we send
manufacturing.
them about $12 billion. Wait, we send them $12 billion. So it's not the tariffs. It has nothing to do with tariffs. If they went to 0-0, they would go to $200 billion with us. We need to stop the ripoff, and 0-0 is the way to
I know,
make
but
a
we don't
more
have
of a
0-0, sir.
ripoff.
We don't have 0-0, actually, because when we saw the president stand in the Rose Garden holding up that chart that you helped make, that wasn't actually tariffs. That was actually confusing to investors because it was some kind of other formula, and the countries themselves seemed kind of random. Like, why are the Heard and McDonald Islands, which don't export to the United States and are quite literally inhabited by penguins, why do they face a 10% tariffs? Did you use AI to generate this?
No, the idea is
why
that there
are they
no
on the
countries
list?
left off. Because the idea, what happens is, if you leave anything off the list, the countries that try to basically arbitrage America go through those countries to us. Any country, like we had tariffs, the president put tariffs on China, right, in 2018. And then what China started doing is they started going through other countries to America.
Right.
They just built through other countries through America. And so the president knows that. He's tired of it. And he's going to fix that. So basically, he said, look, I can't let any part of the world be a place where China or other countries can ship through them. So he ended those loopholes, these ridiculous loopholes. And now what he's trying to say is, I'm going to fix the trade deficit of the United States of America. It's a national security issue. We need to make medicine. We need to make semiconductors. We need to make ships. We need to have steel and aluminum. Come on. We need the greatness of America to actually be built in America. And he's tired of getting ripped off by the rest of the world.
Okay.
Facts. It's really that simple. It's really that simple, okay? It's so funny to me because the liberal media frames Trump's tariffs, right, which are based off calculations from the Trump administration. And people were like, oh, they're not actually reciprocal because they're charging all of these countries more than they actually tariff us. So this is not reciprocal. And it's like, yeah, he's starting from a maximalist position. This is how negotiations work. You don't go into negotiation telling people, hey, I'm willing to negotiate, right? I want to come to a deal. No, you come into negotiation saying, these are my terms. This is what I'm doing. Kick rocks, right? That's what you do. Okay. And then you let people come to you begging and pleading. Hey, please take this off. We know that you're serious. Okay. We will drop all of our trade barriers, which is what you want. Okay. That is the ideal situation. And that's why I'm saying this freak out is so premature. Like, it's crazy to me because it's like, in my opinion, there are countries that they're not gonna be able to survive the tariffs that are put on them, right? This is why you do it from a maximalist position, because they don't have room to not negotiate. They have to come to the negotiation table, or else their countries will be severely damaged, right? Not having access to the U.S. market, right? And the liberals, the left, will try to pretend and say, oh, it's just so easy for them to just trade with other countries like China and all these other great countries that are not nearly as big as the United States of America when it comes to market size, right? That's what these people don't understand. We have the largest market in the world, okay? Everybody wants U.S. dollars. So if they can't get access to our market, they're not going to make up for it by, well, they're just going to sell more to China, right? As if per capita, China can match the United States consumer. They can't. Yeah, they have a large population, but their GDP per capita is only $13,500, which means they're not going to be able to afford to pay the same prices that U.S. consumers pay for these foreign products, right? So again, it's not going to be as easy as, well, other countries will just trade with each other and the United States will lose. That's not how it works. If they refuse to negotiate, if they refuse to come to the table, then everybody loses, right? And when you come to the negotiating table and you are willing to just let everybody lose and say, you know what, screw everybody, if nobody wants to capitulate, then that gives you maximum leverage, because everybody knows, okay, this dude is actually crazy. He will just let everybody get destroyed unless he gets his way. They have to fold because everybody doesn't want to be destroyed, right? That's what's going on here, okay? So that's why, yeah, you slap tariffs on everybody, right? And you say, hey, it's reciprocal based off the fact that you have this much of a trade surplus with us, and what we want to eliminate is the trade surplus. And then you use that in order to get down to the position that you actually want, is lower tariffs across the board, because lower tariffs across the board is going to help domestic manufacturing, right? That's the point, okay? That's the point. And you also try to reorder trade in a way that is more favorable towards the United States of America, which that's ultimately what they're trying to do. That's what they're trying to do. So no, the Trump administration can't just come out here and say that, oh, it's a negotiation, or that we're going to accept these countries that are already coming to the table and saying that they don't want any trade barriers at all. No, we can't tell you we're going to accept those deals, because the countries that we actually really want better deals with, China, Europe, the UK, etc., those countries, we haven't negotiated with them yet, right? So we got to make sure we have maximum leverage going into those negotiations. If we start telling people right now that, oh, we're going to accept these deals and this is what you got to do in order to make us happy, that means we lose leverage going into the negotiations with the countries that actually really matter, right? So it doesn't make sense for us to tell you anything right now, right? We can't tell you anything right now until we negotiate the big deals, right? But the mainstream media, for whatever reason, this is a very hard concept for them to understand, right? For them to consider. But I think, honestly, it's more about the fact that these people are anti-American. They hate Trump so much that they will try to kneecap America when it comes to negotiations, simply to not allow Trump to get a win, right? That's what's happening here, and to save their stock portfolios, right? At least in the short term, because in the long term, Wall Street is going to be fine, right? That's the crazy part about it. That's the crazy part about it. Wall Street is going to do better if we force other countries to lower their trade barriers. If we can create a Bretton Woods 2.0, which I think is a part of what the president is trying to do, right? What Scott Bassett is trying to do, that's going to be better for the United States of America. Okay, if we can manufacture here in the United States of America while also maintaining our status as a reserve currency, the world's reserve currency, then that is going to be a win for us, right? And that's what they're ultimately trying to do.
But just to be clear, April 9th, the so-called retaliatory tariffs, the reciprocal tariffs, I should say, are those coming? Or are they open to negotiation?
This woman is panicking, bro. Like, she's literally panicking over the tariffs. Like, what is going on right now? Right? I like, whoa, like, what's happening? I mean, she must be losing millions, okay? She has to be losing a lot of money right now to be so angry, so upset.
The tariffs are coming. He announced it, and he wasn't kidding. The tariffs are coming. Of course they are.
Okay.
So
is
dumb.
The administration...
Such a stupid question, bro. Such a stupid question. They're trying to undermine the negotiations. And that's a damn shame. We have a media that will undermine our president trying to make America economically stronger on the world stage. That's how anti-American our media has become because of Trump derangement. It's a damn shame.
Considering any kind of offset, any kind of subsidy, you mentioned the first administration, there was some bailout to farmers to help them deal with the pain from Chinese retaliation. Are you looking at that now?
Not that I have not participated in any meetings with respect to that. The country is focused on, you realize trillions of dollars of factories are going to be built in America. That's huge GDP. The factories being built in America are huge.
That takes
GDP.
years. And you've said that robots are going to fill those jobs. So those aren't union
really automated
worker jobs.
It's automated factories, but the key is who's going to build the factories, who's going to operate the factories, who's going to make them work. Great American workers. You know, we are going to replace
on other
the
networks.
armies of millions of people. Well,
that's not what he said to Fox. Again, this woman is just fishing. She's fishing for something to say to discredit this man. We went over his interviews. What Howard Lutnick has clearly stated is that AI manufacturing will allow us to produce goods at a lower cost than China, which is part of the reason why we need to bring manufacturing back here, because we don't want China to master AI manufacturing, and then it's at the point now where quite literally we're dependent on China, our adversary, for literally everything, right? Like we don't want that to happen, okay? We want to win the AI race, and a part of that, again, is AI manufacturing, but that's going to take blue-collar, high-skill labor in order to make that happen, okay? So that's where the job growth is going to come from, okay? It's going to come from the fact that if we're building more of these factories, okay, to sell abroad to other countries, which, again, is going to help create jobs in the United States of America, then you're going to have more people get employed. These are going to be good jobs. Again, they're not going to be sweatshop jobs, right? The robots are going to be doing the sweatshop work, but the other work required to maintain that is going to be done by humans, and that in of itself, again, is something that is going to boost productivity, okay, and boost opportunities for people, okay, especially in parts of the country that have been destroyed by free trade, okay? So that is the plan from the Trump administration. That is what they want to do.
Remember, the army of millions and millions of human beings screwing in little screws to make iPhones, that kind of thing is going to come to America. It's going to be automated, and great Americans, the trade craft of America, is going to fix them, is going to work on them. They're going to be mechanics. There's going to be HVAC specialists. There's going to be electricians. The trade craft of America, our high school educated Americans, the core to our workforce is going to have the greatest resurgence of jobs in the history of America to work on these high-tech factories, which are all coming to America. That's what's going to build our next generation of America.
Are you concerned in the time it will take for a company to move to America that it will benefit China in the immediate term, that other markets will look to other suppliers instead of dealing with the United States?
That is ridiculous. The problem is everyone in the world sells to us. Our economy is the consumer of the world. We are the only one with a trade deficit. The rest of the world has a trade surplus. Why does Europe have a trade surplus? Is there something about Europe that's special? Seriously, are they a different world than we are? Why are they selling $200 billion a year,
Mr. Secretary,
more to us? It's because it's not fair. The rules are made not fair, and President Trump is going to fix them, and he's doing it for America, and he's doing it for your children and mine and our grandchildren. This is the moment that the United States of America takes hold of itself, and Donald Trump's been talking about this his whole life. This is Donald Trump's agenda, and we are all here to help him execute it.
And we will take him at his word quite literally. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for your time this morning.
Wow. One of the most unprofessional interviews that I've seen in a long time. I mean, this woman was raging throughout the whole interview. Raging. Oh, how long is it going to take? Are these people going to go to China instead? It's going to help China. Well, what's going to actually help China, again, in the long run, is us not being able to manufacture our own things, right? Us not being able to provide for ourselves. Yeah, that is going to hurt the United States, and that's going to help China in the long run. But apparently these people are not worried about that, right? They're not worried about being dependent on China. The only thing they're worried about is their portfolios and cheap labor, right? This is what they care about the most, right? Notice what makes these people mad the most, right? The stock market going down and taking away their slaves, right? Those are the things that upset them the most. They boo-hoo-whined and cry about illegals being deported. They're boo-hoo-whined and cry now because we don't want to be dependent on Chinese and Vietnamese sweatshops, right? They're boo-hoo-whined and cried about that, and they're boo-hoo-whined and crying about Wall Street losing some money, right? That is what they're upset about. It is again, fascinating, very fascinating to see all of the anger from the liberal media and the Democrats and people that, again, claim they care about equality and human rights, right? Because it seems to me that they actually don't. They love inequality and they don't give a damn about so-called human rights. But hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.